Let's give it a spin. Oh my gosh, it works perfectly, first try. Never happens. As I mentioned in my previous video, I decided to forego using the cast aluminum base. It was all a big sand casting that I didn't find attractive. So I'm making a base out of walnut. I have a nice piece of black walnut kicking around here, so I'm just cutting it down to dimension using the sled on my table saw here. A little bit of sanding. I'm using 220 grit just to smooth it down and make it look nice. Yep, that looks good. So I'm going to use what is called an OG router bit, which is a traditional old school bit used for shaping the top edges of things like this. Going slow on the first pass, and the first pass is kind of deep, so the second pass I'm going to raise the bit slightly, as you can see there, and do a very shallow cut just to do a finishing pass on the wood so it doesn't tear it out. Yep, looks good. So shellac is my go-to finish. It's quick and it's easy, happens to smell really nice, and leaves a nice finish. So I'm just hitting it on all four sides. In retrospect, I realized I was a little early on finishing it because I had to clamp it up on the mill. As you can see, I'm edge finding the edges here for reference for all the dimensions for the holes I have to drill for mounting the parts. So unfortunately the surface got a bit marred up by those clamp blocks, and I'll have to go back in and refinish it. Took a while to figure out all the math on getting the exact positions, which is really critical for this machine, for the Stirling engine, to get these parts exactly located. These two holes are for the supports that hold the cylinders, and so they're exactly 1 inch apart, and they have to be centered on the wood block fairly well. And then these are the additional two supports for the flywheel. So essentially I'm treating wood just like I would aluminum or steel or whatever metal. This router bit is what I call the meat grinder. It's a 1/2 inch diameter, really long router bit, and running in the mill it runs just great. So I'm just basically driving it around using the hand wheels and watching the DRO, and I'm just going to hollow out a whole section here for the flywheel, just like there was a cutout in the original aluminum casting for the base. So I'm starting fairly shallow and dropping down layers at a time, about 0.2 inches at a time. So that's that cleaned out. I'm going to touch it up with a little sandpaper. As you can see, the surface got a little marred up from clamping, so I'm going to have to refinish that whole surface. A little bit of sanding will do. Just clean that all up. One more hit of shellac. Actually, I noticed later that the sides needed a bit more work, so I went in with liquid shellac from a can and painted the edges just to finish it all out a bit more after this. This leaves a bit of a stipple finish. So here I am doing the final assembly. Obviously this is the flywheel and the custom mounts that I built for it out of brass in the previous episode. There's a whole bunch of different parts that go on there. There's the support, and then there's a little spacer washer, and then the actual cam, I guess it's called, I'm not sure. This time-lapse is a bit off framing, unfortunately. When I set up a time-lapse camera to capture this, I didn't get it all very clearly. But the good news is I just kick it over and it worked first time right away, no problem. So here it is running at full speed, and I'm just turning it around to show it to you. Thanks for watching, and please remember to give me a like or subscribe if you want to see more of my videos. And you can also click the Super Thanks button below to make a small contribution for this video, or support me on Patreon in the link below. Thanks, and I hope to see you soon.